Okay, the Committee on Finance will come to order. We have our budgets agenda today. First up is House Bill 133 relating to the budget of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. First up is Office of Hawaiian Affairs.
Good morning, Chair Yamashita, Vice Chair Kitagawa, and members of the committee. Office of Hawaiian Affairs stands strongly in support of HB 133, and we are here to answer any questions on our budgetary ask.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members' questions. Okay, good. We're gonna move on to the next. Okay, moving on to the next bill, House Bill 382 relating to the judiciary. First up is judiciary. Tom Mick.
Thank you, Chair Yamashita, Vice Chair Kitagawa. The judiciary also stands on its written testimony in support.
Okay.
We're here to answer questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Okay, members' questions. Okay, thank you. We're gonna move on to the next bill, House Bill 300 relating to the state budget. First up is Office of the Governor.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Blake Oshiro, Senior Advisor for the Governor. We will be standing on our written testimony, but I'll be available for any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is the Office of the Lieutenant Governor. Lieutenant Governor. Morning.
This is good morning. Good morning. Usually we have hearings in the afternoon, but I see that you guys have matching apparels. I'm looking forward to conference when you guys go up against the Senate because they always have matching apparels. But in support, you have our testimony. We're referring back to our budget testimony, and we'll be available for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is HHSC.
Good morning, Chair Yamashita, Vice Chair Kitagawa, members of the committee. I'm Linda Rosen, CEO for HHSC, and will stand on our written testimony. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. DCCA? Not here. Okay, next up is Budget and Finance.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Louis Salaveri, Director of Finance. You have our written testimony. We will stand on our testimony and support and be happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, next is DBED.
Good morning, Chair Yamashita, Vice Chair Kitagawa, and members of the committee. I'm Lucy Pascual, ASO for DBED. I'm here to stand in support of the written testimony, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is ELB, Robert Peters.
Good morning, Chair and Vice Chair and members of the committee. The Early Learning Board stands on its written testimony as submitted in strong support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is State Council on Developmental Disabilities.
Good morning, Chair, committee members. Dane Bartolos, Executive Administrator for the Hawaii State Council on Developmental Disabilities. We stand in support of HB 300. We just would like to point out under HTH 501, under the Developmental Disabilities Division, we are concerned about they do require additional allocation to sustain the rate increases to our waiver providers. And we're just really worried if without that, we might lose providers as well as be out of compliance with the wait list. So we'd just like to bring that to your attention and defer to the Department of Developmental Disabilities for further comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. School Facilities Authority.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Chad Keone Faria, School Facilities Authority. We stand on our written testimony and be here for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Executive Office on Early Learning.
Hi, Chair Yamashita, Vice Chair Kitagawa, and members of the committee. I'm Yuko Arikawa Cross, Director of the Executive Office on Early Learning. We stand in support. We stand on our written testimony in support, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Kaho'olawe Island Reserve Commission. Not here. Okay, next is DHHL. I'll go down the list. Not here. Okay, Hawaii State Energy Office. Okay, I'm gonna go all the way down. Department of Labor.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Bill Kunzman, Deputy Director, Department of Labor and Industrial Relations, and we'll stand on testimony in strong support, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Public Safety. Director Johnson or designee.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Tessie Fernandez, BMO Public Safety. We stand on our written testimony in support of the bill, and we're here for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Department of Education. Kurt Otoguro or designee.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Tammy Chun, Deputy Superintendent, representing the Department of Education. We submitted written testimony in support of the measure. I just have a few comments about our testimony. We wanted to address some questions that have been raised about the requests made in the Board of Education approved budget. Over the years, DOE has increased, expectations of DOE have increased in response to changes in society, the community, and the economy, which were exacerbated by the pandemic. DOE and the community need to address the needs of the whole child for children to learn, and providing the services to address these expanded needs and expanded support for children to learn requires resources. So we acknowledge that the department's board-approved requests seek substantial additional resources and support. However, our biennium request is less than our current year's general fund appropriation. We ask for a continued dialogue with the legislature to find the best way to meet the expanded demands of our public schools and students to carry out our educational mission.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hawaii Tourism Authority.
Hello, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, committee members, John DeFries of the Hawaii Tourism Authority. You have our written testimony, and we stand in support of that testimony, and will be available for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Department of Accounting and General Services.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Chris Kinimaka, DAG's Public Works Administrator, on behalf of the State Comptroller. DAG stands on a written testimony as submitted, and we're here to answer any questions. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you. Department of Human Services. Kathy Betts or designee. Okay. Next is HPHA, Hawaii Public Housing Authority. Okay, Hawaii Correction Systems Oversight Commission. Okay. He'e Coalition.
Aloha, Chair Yamashita, Vice Chair Kitagawa, and members of the committee. My name is Sherry Nakamura, Director of He'e Coalition, a public education advocacy group. We would like to stand on our written testimony in support of HB 300. We want to emphasize that we think priority of the DOE budget should be on resources to the school level to support the hardworking principals, teachers, and staff who work directly with students. We think that this is a more efficient use of funds compared with adding to the DOE's bureaucracy. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to go back to the ones that are not highlighted now. Department of Agriculture. Not here. Okay, University of Hawaii Hilo. Not here. Attorney General's Office. Not here. David Lasner.
Aloha, good morning. You all have our written testimony. I'll just say our priorities remain as they were last time I was in this room. Our highest priority is restoration of our budget, both the funds that were eliminated at the COVID period that have not been fully restored into our base budget, funds that we have available this year that were appropriated but are not continuing in our base budget. And following on that, our highest priorities for new projects are the Hawaii Promise program to improve access for low-income students to higher education at all levels, and an initiative particularly around healthcare workforce. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Office of Elections. Okay, next up is Department of Human Resource Development.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Brenna Hashimoto. I'm the Director of Department of Human Resources Development, and we'll stand on our written testimony in strong support of the 4 budget initiatives that we've proposed to support our operations. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. DLNR.
Good morning, Chair Yamashita and Vice Chair Kitagawa. Thank you very much, Don Chang, on behalf of the Department of Land and Natural Resources. We stand on our written testimony and are available to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, PUC, Public Utilities Authority, Commission. Not here, okay. NELHA. Okay, Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, Scott Glenn.
On behalf of Director Scott Glenn, I'm Mary Alice Evans. We'll stand on our testimony and answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Hawaii Green Infrastructure Authority. Okay. Okay. Judiciary, State of Hawaii. Oh, blank here. Like, DOH Executive Office on Aging. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. Susan Fernandez, First Deputy of Department of Health. Office of Aging is not here right now, but I am happy to answer any questions for that office as well as the larger Department of Health.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Department of Health is next up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Same thing. Thank you. State Office of Climate Change, Mitigation, and Adaptation Commission. Not here. Hawaii State Public Library Systems. Not here. Okay, HCDA. Okay, Department of, oh, you're here. Okay, please.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Craig Nakamoto, Executive Director of Hawaii Community Development Authority. We've submitted written testimony and support and are available for any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Department of Taxation. No tax. Not here. Okay, Office of Information, OIP.
Good morning, Cheryl Kakazu Park, Director of OIP. I'll stand on my testimony except to say thank you for passing last year funding for 2 new positions, but we didn't get it because the bill was vetoed. I'm hoping to get it in the operating budget going forward. And I have detailed in my written testimony why we need those funds.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next up is HTDC.
1 minute.
1 minute. Okay, go.
Sorry about that.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair. We'll stand on our testimony and support, but are here outside to answer questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Maybe, I think they said DHS is here. Outside, maybe, oh, right there.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Kathy Betts, Director for the Department of Human Services. I was outside and I didn't hear, sorry about that.
Okay.
We'll stand on our written testimony in strong support of House Bill 300, and thank you for your support and time.
Okay, thank you. The Attorney General's office.
Good morning, Chair and Vice Chair. I'm Ann Lopez, the Attorney General. I want to say that we're in strong support of the governor's budget as well as the GM1, and otherwise we'll stand on our testimony. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Next is Land Use Commission. Okay. Department of Transportation on Zoom, I think. Not present. Okay. Community Alliance on Prisons. Not here. Okay. Catholic Charities Hawaii.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I'm Betty Lou Larson, representing Catholic Charities Hawaii. We'll stand on our written testimony as well in support of the many petitions submitted by the seniors of Lanakila for the full funding of kapuna care, at least at the pre-pandemic levels. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is Hunt Development Group.
Thank you.
Oh, Land Use, please proceed.
Thank you. We stand on our written testimony in support.
Okay, thank you.
We're here for
Okay, DOT. Yeah.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, members. It's different from DLT. We stand our testimony in support.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Cat Brady.
So sorry, I was in the cheap seats. Aloha, Chair Mashita, Vice Chair Kitagawa. Thank you so much for holding this hearing. I'm here to testify in really, really strong support of the Oversight Commission. They asked the governor to include things. Sorry, I just ran. To include things in the budget, and it didn't make it. So I'm really hoping that you will fund them fully so that they can hire staff to meet the mandate that you guys set. So please, please fund them. The alternative is that the feds will come in and take over the system. And we know we've been to that rodeo several times. The feds come in, very expensive changes, and then they leave, and everything goes back to the way it was. So please, please fully fund the Oversight Commission.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Kona Community Hospital. Okay. Hope Services Hawaii.
Aloha, my name is Kristen Alice and I'm here on behalf of Hope Services Hawaii. We're the largest nonprofit homeless services provider on Hawaii Island, and we have comments on the measure. First, I want to start off and say that the reason we're not fully in support of this is a budget is a moral document and should reflect the priorities of people. And we do want to thank you for including homeless services. However, it's time for them to be included in the base budget. So I would urge you going forward to please include the core homeless services like rapid rehousing, Housing First, and the other tools that we need to get people off the street and into permanent housing and help them avoid and overcome homelessness in the base budget. Other than that, though, we are happy that you funded them, and we want to thank you for that. I'd also just like to direct you to a couple parts in our written testimony, which is similar to Catholic Charities testimony. Just increase that steady, or continue with the steady funding for homeless services. We also support $300 million to HHFDC for the rental housing revolving fund statewide. and increased funding for the State Office on Homelessness and Housing Solutions and for Ohana Zones. Thank you so much for hearing my testimony, and please consider putting this in the base budget moving forward. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you very much. Next is Jonathan Kane. Okay. And then on Zoom, Dylanar attended meeting. Who are you from Dylanar on Zoom? Not present. Okay, is there anyone else wishing to testify that I missed? Please come forward. No. Okay. We called you earlier, but you were outside. Yeah. So. Sorry.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Sharon Hurd, Department of Agriculture. We stand on our written testimony in support of 300 and GM1. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify? Oh, okay, please.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Sorry, I couldn't hear it. I was in seats as well. Hakeem Monsalfi, HPHA. We stand on our testimony and support. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify? Please come forward. Morning.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Donna Mao, Hawaii State Energy Office. We stand on our written testimony in support.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have your testimony. Okay. Anyone else wishing to testify? Please come forward.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Katie Ducat, Deputy Director of DHL. Apologize for not being here earlier. We do stand on our written testimony and are available for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, members, questions. Representative Lamasal. Oh, we got one more. Hold on. Okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm so sorry for the delay. It was slightly delayed outside, so I missed my opportunity, but thank you for letting me come anyway. My name is Kristen Johnson. I'm the Oversight Coordinator of the Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission. I'm here to let you know that we do stand on our testimony, but there are some areas that I wanted to point out. Most importantly, it is the Commission's intent to seek funds that are actually surpassing the budget sheet submitted in front of you. We did really outline what that looks like, why we need it, but the big part that I want to highlight is we need staff. These facilities, I'm going to be completely honest with you, they are the worst I've ever seen, particularly the jails. They need investigations, they need proper oversight, and I am one person. I'm doing my best, but we have 8 facilities, including 9, including one on the mainland, and so we need more staff to be able to get this job done. I'm here if you have any questions. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to testify? 10 seconds. Okay, Representative Lamasal.
Thank you, Chair. This question is for HTA. I just wanted to get some revenue that was generated by the convention pre-pandemic and then during the pandemic as well.
If in our request, we are requesting that a $28.5 million ceiling be reinstated. When our funding resorted to ARPA, that ceiling was eliminated, and we have $29 million in the convention center account that we are unable to access.
Is that the revenue?
Anything else?
Can I get a clarification?
Sure.
Sorry. Is that the revenue that was generated?
Pre-pandemic revenue.
Pre and then?
Yes, in addition to the 11 million allocation that was appropriated, the center does generate revenue, and that revenue is captured in that account.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Chair. Either the Office of the Governor or BNF? It's about numbers, it's not me. Okay. Actually, it is about numbers, so perhaps correct. So just regarding the Council on Revenues adjusting their projections downward, $328 million, can you just provide any comments on what that means to the executive branch?
So we've taken a look at the adjustments that were made by the Council on Revenues yesterday. It does represent a significant decrease in the forecast, going from 5.5 to 3. And based upon our calculations right now, the impact towards fiscal year 23 is about $320 million. which would basically take our projected original balance of 2.4 billion down to 2.1 billion. And in the first year of the biennium, fiscal year 24, the impact is going to be 439 million, which would bring our projected balance down from 1.7 to 1.3 billion. And then in the second half of the biennium, the impact is 454 million, which will bring down our ending balance from 2.1 to 1.7 billion dollars, Representative.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Blake.
Just very briefly, so Governor is very aware of the recent projections. He's had informal discussions with members of the Council of Revenues, and so one of his plans is to really stay in close contact with Department of Taxation so we can continue to monitor the revenues as they roll in and see if we're on track, below track, or even above track, and then he will make adjustments based off of that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Representative Kilo.
The Governor's office, if you can stay up there. So
Yes,
going through
Representative.
Gov's budget, and then we were talking about the new positions to create the housing division under you folks. Can you kind of share what the vision would be during session and off session, what those positions would be doing?
So the Governor's office has created the Chief Housing Officer, and really what we want to do is try and find ways in which we can create better synergies between all the various departments, so we can kind of streamline and move some of the things a little bit quicker. Right now, one of the big things that the Housing Office is working on is the emergency proclamation. I think once we figure that out, what the parameters are and what the process will be, I think a lot of the work that the staff will be doing is deciding which projects make it through that sort of process and sort of get their approval, and also working with the counties to make sure that we do whatever we need to do with them for infrastructure.
And then that was a good segue. So is it the vision that some of these folks would be working tightly with the counties to determine the steadiness and projection of projects that we're pushing?
Correct. Part of the discussion right now, right, is when you normally do an emergency proc, you sort of waive a bunch of laws. Our intent is not to necessarily just waive and just do whatever we want. Instead, we want to work closely with the stakeholders, especially the counties, to make sure that when we do approve a project and it moves through, that the counties at the end of the day are willing to accept the project and make sure that it's ready for occupancy. And some of that is just going to take really close communication with them to make sure that whatever we do is things that they are willing to also accept.
And then in this budget, Governor's expanding the homelessness team to have support staff as well, right?
Correct. That's another one of his big initiatives, and so Mr. Koshiba will be taking the lead on that.
Okay. Thank you, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Representative Ward.
Chair, could I follow up with the Governor's former representative of this body?
Yes, Representative.
Recently, the Star Advertiser did a front page article on the new game plan for the stadium. Is that in this budget now? And if not, it seemed like the cost went up a bit. What's the latest financial arrangement
So
on that?
the current document in front of you and what's been proposed does not reflect that recent sort of news. This is money, the 350 was appropriated before. I think the governor is now working with the legislature to see that we are committed towards the path forward after the last administration sort of stalled things, and so we've decided to restart it. We're going with a different approach that is a design, build, operate, and maintain model rather than looking at the financing sort of models that were presented before. But there may be some additional requests as this budget moves through the rest of the process. However, that is still up to negotiation and discussion at this point.
That's the 50 million that's not in there right now. you're showing.
Correct.
That'll be very interesting to see. But it's not any more than that, right?
That is what we are.
Oh, you don't know yet.
Working in those parameters, and we understand the concerns from the legislature, and so we're working within those parameters.
Thank you, Blake. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any
Thank
further
you.
questions? Representative Kahlo.
For the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. We received a budget number and not a lot of information. So just for the committee, if you can explain just a little bit about your budget requests generally.
Sure. And I apologize, committee chair and vice chair and committee members. I also wanted to acknowledge
Trustee Keone Souza here with me supporting, and excuse and apologize. The Beneficiary and Advocacy Committee is hearing the committee occurring currently, so we apologize for that. So Representative, our testimony has a breakdown, a little chart there, and if you take a look at the chart, it will detail the $3 million ask that we are asking for by the legislative provisos, as well as the Prog D, which is all for beneficiary and advocacy. In past years, the asks have been operational, positions, rent. This year, the board approved that we have our ask with our matching trust funds be specifically targeted for beneficiary and advocacy. So that testimony, as well as the bill itself, will have that detail of the various provisos. So it includes occupancy readiness, which will cover or is intended to cover down payments, first and last month deposit, gaps in financing or building permit costs, as an example. Social services, which we've had our emergency financial assistance programs, education, as well as legal services, which we contract out to a provider who responds to the contract. And currently that's the Native Hawaiian Legal Corp. And then we added $500,000 because we understood the priorities over climate change mitigation. And so we wanted to include that in as well. And then last but not least is Ohana Economic Stability. And that's to help our families just make ends meet. Like all families in our state, people are just trying to make ends meet. And so that's from, regular jobs, more jobs, subsistence, as well as farming or other kinds of ways to help families make ends meet. So that's why we specifically put in some money there to be able to match with trust funds to help families make ends meet.
Thank you. And my apologies, Chair, that we're not on HB 300. I'm very sorry.
Thank you for recognizing that. Okay. Any further questions on this budget? Yeah, Representative Ward.
President Lasner, if he's still here, or is he outside? Is he in the cheap seat, someone said? He's gone?
Hakeem is getting him.
Oh, he's
Hakeem is going to get
oh,
him.
Hakeem is getting him.
Oh, yeah. Members, is there anybody else you want to ask questions of that might not be in the
While we're
room?
waiting. Oh, here.
Okay.
Mr. President, welcome. Surprise. Surprised we'd have a question for the University of Hawaii. In your testimony, you said we'd like to have restoration of funds. Do you have a number that you would like to see restored?
It's in the testimony.
Sorry. It's in your backpack. It could be a general number or a very specific one, depending on how you want it.
We have it very specifically. It is $5.6 million at Manoa, $1.8 million at Jabsum, $3.42 million at Hilo, $1.62 million at West Oahu, $5.086 million at the system. Athletics is $3.6 million. Hawaii Institute of Marine Biology, $85,000. The residency program for training docks, $1.67 million. Neighbor Island dock expansion is $2 million. And those are the restoration items. Everything else we requested.
So that's about 35 million, or give or take?
No, that is
6, 9, 14, maybe less than that.
7.4, 10.8.
I don't do math in public.
11, closer to 20.
Closer to 20. In relation to that, there's also a bill that's going through to purchase St. Francis School. Do you have any idea how much that would be and how that would fit? It's not in the budget, but it's another item for the university. would that be a priority, or restoration of what you just said would be?
Restoration would be our highest priority.
That would be the highest
That's,
priority.
the restoration all represents money that we have this year in this year's budget that will disappear on July 1.
Uh-huh. But if there was money for the St. Francis purchase, what would you primarily use it for?
Our main interest would be to develop faculty housing. You previously approved a revenue bond appropriation for that property, and the owners of the property wanted more money than the revenue bond was for, and frankly, more money than we could make pencil out to have the faculty housing break even. Our goal when we run that kind of program is to provide housing for faculty who otherwise can't get into the market like many people in Hawaii. And we just want to break even on it.
How much faculty housing do you already have?
We have, I'm going to estimate about probably 400 beds in 2 complexes, one in Manoa, across the street from Manoa Marketplace, and one, the Wa'ahila property. Does that sound about right? Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Representative Portport.
For DLNR.
Oh.
Aloha.
Aloha.
In your testimony, it mentions adding 11 positions for climate justice, climate change mitigation, and adaptation.
Yes.
10 program specialists in particular. I was just wondering if you could share more specifics of what those positions are for.
Yeah, that really was based upon the climate change bill and trying to provide positions in other departments that could help us address climate change on a more coordinated effort with other state agencies. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sure.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Really? Okay. Seeing that we don't have any further questions, we're going to move on to decision-making. We have everyone here, so we're just going to move right into it. Okay, first up is House Bill 133 relating to the budget for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Members, we're going to pass this out. The recommendation is to pass this out as an HD1 with technical amendments, and we're going to be defecting it. So HD1, any discussion? Vice Chair for the vote.
Recommendation of the chair is to pass HB 133 with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Ayu. Aye. Representative Chun. Aye. Representative Cochran.
Aye.
Representative Garrett. Aye. Representative Kahaloa.
Aye.
Representative Kila.
Aye.
Representative Kobayashi.
Aye.
Representative Lamosau.
Aye.
Representative Morikawa.
Aye.
Representative Nishimoto.
Aye.
Representative Poi Poi. Representative Takenouchi.
Aye.
Representative Alcos.
Aye.
Representative Ward.
Aye.
Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to House Bill 382, relating to the judiciary. Members, we're going to move this out as a House Draft 1. We're going to be making some adjustments, as we discussed earlier, that during the pandemic, there were online disposition of cases. There were other things that we looked at as far as per diem judges and different things like that. So, as well as other staff needed. So there are going to be some of the judges that were appropriated in this budget that we're going to pull out for now, and then have further discussion with judiciary on that to more fine-tune this budget. So, and as well as technical amendments and defective date. Any discussion? Okay, Vice Chair.
Recommendation of the chair is to pass HB 382 with amendments, noting the presence of all members who will be noted present for the rest of the agenda. Are there any reservations? Any noes? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. We're moving on to House Bill 300H. We're going to be moving this out as an HD1. And members, the original governor's budget, as we know, came in very late for us. So what this budget does not include at this time will be any of the anything that came on February 1st. 13th, I'm sorry. 13th, as well as we need time to fully analyze some of the other things going forward. What will be included in this budget as a theme is a one-time infusion of monies that we feel are of high priority. And one of them that we identified early on was deferred maintenance. So in the governor's in original submission, they gave us a sheet, and all of you have this, and then it talks about all the deferred maintenance in the state. And the A-Fund deferred maintenance is well over $1.28 billion. So in this budget, what we're going to do is we're going to appropriate $1 billion for deferred maintenance of all our buildings and in A-funds that will be strategically pushed out in over the next few years. We have neglected a lot of our own buildings throughout the years, and we feel that this is a high priority. So this is one of the things we're going to be pushing forward, as well as $376 million that we will be putting into the budget for our natural resources, the Department of DLNR, for forestry and wildlife, our boating infrastructure, all the things that we have neglected over the years. There's going to be an appropriation there, as well as things that we feel are of priority, which is taking care of our population of highest need. So within that will be some of the tax measures that we're going to be accounting for in the financial plan. Is the income tax bracket changes, the personal exemptions, the standard deductions, the food credit, and the adjustment to the EITC. Those are the major changes, and like I said, in light of the council revenues numbers, which was a reduction from 5.5% down to 2%, and then from 5% to 4%. And so that's a reduction of $327.8 million in FY23, as well as $439.7 million in FY24, and $455 million in FY25, which is a reduction of about $1.2 billion that we will have less to work with. So some of these adjustments we still have to work with the departments, as well as work with the Senate and this committee. We will be looking at the numbers and continually analyzing it through the next month, well into conference, and we will look forward to working with all of you on this. This is I think in earlier discussions in this committee, we talked about that, we could have a surplus of $2 billion easily, and then it could flip the other way just as fast. And this is a good indicator of how fast that it can switch on us. So I think we are going to be cautious going forward, and we will. The other thing that I think I talked about before, members, is that my other concern is when the economists came in early in the briefing and they talked about inflation and those types of things. I think there's still that out there. We still have to be concerned with the supply chain issues as well as rising costs. Right? I mentioned this before, and I'll probably mention it again because I think it's a good example. One of the things where one department came to us and asked us for $50 million of additional money to fund existing housing projects that we've previously funded. And I asked, why do you need the $50 million? They said, because the cost went up. So my question was, so we're going to give you $50 million and we get zero additional housing? And the answer was yes. That is inflation. So that is something we'll be dealing with, and we have to be well cognizant of going forward. Okay, so, but we have some bright spots in the budget, and Vice Chair will talk about the highlights of the budget.
Okay, so the highlights of the operating budget for HB 300 HD1. General fund appropriation for FY24 is $11,416,904,802. FY25 is $9,292,893,304. And all means of financing for FY24, $18,902,982,860, and FY 2025 is $17,829,157,036. So for the Department of Accounting and General Services, $1,500,000 in fiscal year 2024 for the data center hardware and state network hardware, $185,000 and one staff attorney and one legal assistant for enforcement of information practices. For the Department of Agriculture, there will be $5 million for micro grants for food security program. For the Department of Budget and Finance, there will be $500 million in fiscal year 24 to be deposited into the Emergency and Budget Reserve Fund, and we'll be adding $1 billion in fiscal year 24 for Budget and Finance for deferred maintenance statewide. Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism, there will be $35 million for the Hawaii Tourism Authority, $832,876 for fiscal year 25 to match anticipated federal grant awards, and $360,000 and 3 temporary positions for the Hawaii Broadband and Digital Equity Office. The Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs will receive $7,560,000 to fund the renovation of the King Kalakaua building, as well as $750,000 for the Zero Emission Vehicle Fueling System Rebate Program and $750,000 for the Zero Emission Hydrogen Fueling System Rebate Program. The Department of Defense will receive $2,500,000 in general funds and $4,500,000 in federal funds in fiscal year 24 for the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, $1 million for various repairs and maintenance, and $166,750 and $500,250 in federal funds for student meals at the Hawaii National Guard Youth Challenge Academy. The Department of Education will receive $11,500,000 for A+ after-school programs, $10 million to replace aging equipment and address soil contamination at multiple schools, $7 million for nursing services to accommodate student health needs, and $1,337,301 in fiscal year 24, and $1,697,200 in fiscal year 25 for 4 FTE and operating costs to implement Aaron's Law in Hawaii. The Department of Labor will receive $1 million for the Immigrant Resource Center. Department of Education Libraries will receive $3,218,236,000 to restore funding for 65 positions. The Department of Human Services will receive $15 million in fiscal year 24 for Ohana Zone's pilot program, $3,750,000 for the Rapid Rehousing Program, $3,750,000 for the Housing First Program, $1,750,000 for Homeless Outreach Services and Legal Services Program, $1,550,000 for Family Assessment Centers, $832,500 for in-community youth programs, $2,250,000 to enhance recruitment and worker shortage for the child welfare system, $5,636,953 in general funds, and $7,191,798 in federal funds for increased payments for nursing facilities, $5 million in fiscal year 24, and $10 million in fiscal year 25 for increased payments for medical professionals. The Department of Health will receive $12,900,000 in fiscal year 24 and $14,100,000 in fiscal year 25 for Medicaid, home, and community-based services, $47,630,145 in fiscal year 24, and $43,629,646 in fiscal year 25 to restore general funding for emergency medical services, $400,000 for the Office on Aging, $30 million over both fiscal years for the Hawaii State Loan Repayment Program, $22 million over both fiscal years for Maui Health Systems, $17,846,000 over both years for the Hawaii Health Systems Corporation regions, $889,218 over both fiscal years, and 8 positions for Hawaii District, $860,442,000 over both fiscal years, and 8 positions for Maui District, $720,870 over both fiscal years, and 7 positions for Kauai District. Department of Land and Natural Resources. There will be $1.5 million for the Hawaii Invasive Species Council, $60,225,000 in general funds, and $10,075,000 in special funds in fiscal year 24 for boating and ocean resources, $17,790,000 over both fiscal years for aquatic resources, $118,241,203 over both fiscal years for forestry and wildlife, $170,040,000 in fiscal year 24 for state parks, $20 million and 5 positions for the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority, $3,110,946 for the restoration of funding for Native Resources and Fire Protection Program. The Department of Law Enforcement will receive $2,015,383 in fiscal year 2024 for general administration. The Department of Public Safety will receive $2 million for general administration for community work furlough programs for women. Department of Taxation will receive $8,017,617 for their tax system modernization program and collection programs. Department of Transportation will receive $1,190,000 in fiscal year 24 and $1,638,000 in fiscal year 25 to increase funding for routine maintenance and repairs. $21,220,500 in fiscal year 24 and $22,281,525 in fiscal year 25 to increase in CONRAC, tram, and shuttle service management and operational expenses. $22,800,000 to increase funds for consultant services in support of O&M special maintenance projects statewide. They will also receive $56,726,547 for special maintenance projects for airport administration, $2,737,000 to provide additional funds for traffic control on Oahu, and $50 million in fiscal year 24 and $40 million in fiscal year 25 to provide funds for special repair and maintenance, grounds, buildings, and structures to prolong the life of the highway facility. And finally, the University of Hawaii will receive $22,700,000 in total for the Hawaii Promise Program expansion. This includes $12,300,000 for the Manoa campus, $5 million to the West Oahu campus, $1,700,000 to the Hilo campus, and $3,700,000 to the community colleges. They'll also receive $2,660,000 for the John A. Burns School of Medicine residency expansion that includes Neighbor Island's general medical education, as well as $1,984,998 for essential healthcare faculty at the community college campuses to strengthen the state's healthcare needs. That's it. Oh, okay.
Then she's going to read off the CIP highlights.
Okay, bear with me as we go through this long list again. So the CIP highlights for HB 300. GEO bonds and GOR bonds for 2024 total $847,952,000. Fiscal year 25 equals $324,940. For general funds, in 2024, it's $364,095,000, and 2025 is $278,047,000. All means of finance for 2024 equal $2,510,283,000, and fiscal year 25 is $1,389,655,000. The Department of Accounting and General Services will receive $150 million for improvements and maintenance of public facilities and sites statewide. The Department of Agriculture will receive $18.3 million for improvements to the state irrigation system and reservoir safety. The Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism will receive $150.1 million for affordable housing. The Department of Defense will receive $6 million to retrofit public buildings with hurricane protective measures statewide, $5 million for upgrades and improvements to the Berkheimer Emergency Operations Center, $5 million for upgrades and improvements to National Guard Youth Challenge Academy facilities in Kalaeloa. The Department of Education, $96 million to address deferred maintenance at schools statewide, $5 million for various health and safety improvements statewide, $44 million to support gender equity and ADA improvement projects. The Department of Education Libraries, $32 million for the library system. Department of Human Services, $26.4 million for the renovation and improvement of public housing facilities projects, $9.8 million for improvements and renovations for the Kawailoa Hawaii Youth Correctional Facility and associated youth services programs. The Department of Hawaiian Homelands, $40 million to repair and maintenance projects statewide. Department of Health, $3 million for Kalaupapa Settlement for health and safety improvements and compliance projects, $91.6 million for improvements at the state hospital system, $105 million for mental health crisis unit and stabilization bed capacity, $132.4 million including a federal match for wastewater and safe drinking water projects. The Department of Land and Natural Resources, $10 million for watershed protection initiatives, $4 million for rockfall mitigation, $27.2 million for small boat harbors statewide, $12.7 million for state parks. The Department of Public Safety, $28.5 million for repair and maintenance statewide, $5 million for a consolidated healthcare unit at the Halava Correctional Center, $22 million for new kitchen and laundry facilities at the Women's Community Correctional Center. The Department of Transportation, $518 million for airfield improvements statewide, $216.5 million for improvements to the Daniel K. Inouye International Airport, $37.7 million for improvements to terminals and facilities at Kahului Airport, $24 million for improvements to Kalaeloa Airport, $2.4 million for improvements to Hilo International Airport, $4.08 million for improvements to Ellison Onizuka Kona International Airport, $50.6 million for improvements to Lihue Airport, $112.5 million for harbor improvements statewide, $367 million for improvements to highways statewide, and finally the University of Hawaii, $136.5 million for renewal, modernization, and repair projects statewide, $50 million for capital renewal and deferred maintenance for community colleges statewide, and $11 million for replacement of a HVAC system at Windward Community College.
Okay, thank you very much, Sub-Chair.
Thank you. Vice Chair, can you repeat that? First of all, let me thank the committee for allowing me to take the lead on CIP this year. I really appreciate the faith you've shown in me. I've been put in the unenviable position of having to follow the chair in doing this job, and I've tried my best to live up to the high bar that he set. So thank you very much, committee. I just want to say that, and the chair talked about it earlier, that this is somewhat a unique year. We had the EGA budget to start with for CIP, and then we had GMs that came down from the current administration, which were somewhat late. So in some cases, we were not able to get the follow-up information in time to make this budget. In some cases, maybe advocacy for projects were not as strong as it should be. And this budget, the CIP budget reflects that. But I do look forward to working with the administration going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, any further discussion? Members, Representative Kobayashi, followed by Ward.
There will be some $1 items in the budget, right?
Yes, all the GMs will be, well, not all, but most of them will be $1, and we'll be reviewing them over. I mean, we appreciate your cooperation as our staff kind of vets this with you. So, thank you. Any Representative Ward?
Chair, two questions. Generally speaking, between fiscal years, there's always an increase in the amount of funds. This actually, between fiscal 24 and 25, is a $2 billion hit. Is this the Council of Revenues projection that says, hey, the economy or a recession, is this a macroeconomic
Well, like I said,
forecast?
because of the Corps' report yesterday, we estimate it's going to be about a $1.2 billion reduction from what we earlier thought.
This one looks like $2 billion actually. But, okay, the second question is,
Okay.
your.
And that's what we can do for this current year, so in the out years, it'll be.
Current biennial.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it'll be better, but
Yeah.
it looks not as good. Second one is the huge amount for the repair and maintenance. 1.2 billion, 1.28. Does that include the inflationary stuff that you mentioned earlier, or that's just, that's old prices?
That's in the governor's submittal that we looked at.
So it may or may not have the inflationary note that you made earlier.
That's correct.
Which was kind of scary, actually.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay. Thank you very much, members. Yeah, this is a work in progress, and we will be meeting again on this budget, and we look forward to working with everybody. Okay, Vice Chair for the vote.
Recommendation of the chair is to pass HB 300 with amendments. Are there any reservations? Any noes? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we will be giving a press release coming out soon on this, as well as I suggest for further details on what the committee is thinking, take a look at the committee report. We are adjourned.